Okay, guys, welcome to Through the Looking Glass, our Google Glass session at FutureM. My name's Steve Garfield, and on our panel is Michael Durwin and Ben Grossman, both Google Glass explorers. And just to kick it off, do each of you guys want to just briefly talk about how you got your Google Glass and why? Michael, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So there were two ways to get Google Glass. The first way was to be an attendee at the Google Glass I/O conference, which is for Google developers, and they opened up 2,000 pairs of glass for developers, which went very, very quickly. They were the first ones to get them. And then they ran a little contest on Twitter and, of course, Google Plus to allow people to tell Google what you would do if you had Google Glass. So some of the entrants said, what was the tag? If I had glass?
Hashtag if I had glass.
Hashtag if I had glass. Somebody posted, hashtag if I had glass, I'd cut a bitch, which obviously didn't get picked. And there were a lot of really great ones. Mine was to film my second son being born. Unfortunately, my wife couldn't keep the baby in long enough for glass to come because we had a definite due date and Google did not have a definite due date. We missed that. So instead, I changed my project to filming a movie. So I'm actually just in the final stages of filming a feature-length movie completely with glass, using some audio and outside lighting. But glass is the only camera we're using. So that's been a lot of fun. And you may or may not know that everybody who got glass, they didn't get it for free. We all had to pay for them, pay a lot for them, a wicked lot for them. And I was lucky that I ran a Kickstarter that ended up getting 214% of its funding. So that paid for the glass and it paid for food for the cast and the crew for the film. So that's my Google Glass story. Ben?
Hi everyone, my name is Ben Grossman. I work as a senior strategist at Jack Morton Worldwide, which is a brand experience agency here in town. So my reason for getting Google Glass was a little bit different. At the agency, I focus heavily on emerging and digital technology, so of course, because we're interested in how consumers and brands' relationships are changing, we thought we had to have glass around to test out and start to work with some of our clients on. So the project that I proposed in the hashtag If I Had Glass initiative was that we would bring it into the agency, and we have offices around the world. So the sort of unique and interesting opportunity we have is to ship glass to various countries around the world, to about 15 different countries and offices. So we're in the process right now of capturing among our offices acts of everyday generosity and kindness and celebrating that during the month of November with what folks are thankful for. So it's been a really great opportunity to bring glass that are in our company color, Team Tangerine, and start to spread it around the world and get a lot of different people familiar with them. So that's what we're in the process of right now, and that's what the project I proposed is.
Okay, so yeah, hit the next slide. We'll look at, here's our Twitter names, at Ben Grossman, at Steve Garfield, at M. Durwin, and the hashtag for the session is Future Glass if you want to use it. So let's take a look at, yep. Okay, thanks. And so let's take a look a little bit about how Google Glass came to be, which is back then, right, Michael? Yep. So we're going to look at it. This is an early prototype of them figuring it out in the lab of what it could be. And you've seen some of the jokes with people attaching smartphones to eyeglasses, and actually it's pretty close to the truth of what it used to be. So they spent a lot of hours, probably thousands of dollars, millions of hours, researching what Google Glass should be, and what people would want. They probably even Googled it too. And what they came out with was what everybody wants, and that's the bacon truck. Everybody wants bacon. That's an actual bacon truck. And if you're in the Boston area, and if you want to see the bacon truck, it's at the SOA Market on Sundays. So let's take a look at Google Glass, the hardware. How many people have actually seen Google Glass by show of hands? Have actually seen one? And then keep your hands up if you've actually worn Google Glass or tried it. Okay, a handful. So Michael, why don't you tell us a bit about the hardware and what Google Glass actually is?
Sure. So this is Google Glass. This is a front view. This is an inside view. Google Glass is made with a.
Michael, we can't hear you back here.
I've never heard that before in my life.
Maybe if we have it.
Dun, dun. Now I feel wicked cool. So the framework is a titanium composite. It's very lightweight. I mean, it's as light as a regular pair of glasses. I have a wireframe pair. Those are a little heavier of a plastic pair. Those are a little lighter. So they are very, very light. They don't sit directly in front of your face like this, so they don't block your view. They actually sit up. So really all I'm seeing is the very bottom of what we refer to as the crystal and part of the armature that holds it in your peripheral vision. So you don't see it till you look up and you need it. The battery compartment is held in the back here, which is nice because it's off your head so it doesn't get hot. And the computer and touch screen, a power button, and a few other secret features are all buried in this piece right here. There's a little adjustment which doesn't do a whole lot. A lot of the adjustment in these, and I'll let anyone who wants to try these on after the session. Some people might have trouble with them if their head is too much smaller than mine or too much larger. They're all custom fit. We have to go to a very fancy store and they put them on and they spend about an hour tweaking them to get them just right for you. They're just in a perfect spot. So some people may have a little trouble activating them or putting them on, but they work for most people. As you may not know, glass includes a camera and includes a view screen. So the camera takes pretty high resolution pictures, as much as you'd expect from an Android phone or an iPhone. It only takes 720p video, which is a little disappointing. It's not full HD, for those of you who know what that is. And the view screen, which, let's see if we can click through. This is pretty much what you see. It's a small screen. It looks much bigger in your vision. But the screen is actually projected into your eye. It's not projected into the glass. Nobody's gone blind yet, so that's a good thing. But the way it works is you can see there's a tiny projector on the inside right-hand side, and it reflects off the prism that's built right into the crystal. There's a little bit of silver leaf, which you'll see if you look up real close to it, that helps reflect it right into your eye. So it's pretty interesting, and all you're seeing is just a very light layer over your regular vision when you want it. So if I turn it on, I can see it's 10:54, and I say, "Okay, glass." Oh, no, I lost it. Didn't tip my head too quick. Saturday Night Live skit. "Okay, glass." I think it's getting a little echo. So what I just did was push a button on top, which allowed me to take a video. If I hold it down, or a picture. If I hold it down, it allows me to take a picture and video. And it's voice activated. I think we get a little bit of an echo, so it's not working quite right. I get it again. "Okay, glass. Take a picture." There we go. And all the features on Google Glass are voice activated. So I can do a Google search, I can check directions, I can do a video call, or I can make a regular call, I can send a text message, I can read an email, I can Facebook, I can tweet, I can Instagram, I can read the Washington Post,
You can
watch
post
CNN.
a path, whichever one wants to do.
Right, so it'll go everywhere. So it does almost everything your cell phone can do. There is no Angry Birds application, but there's no Candy Crush. Sorry, ladies. I hear that's coming soon. The only real game is Battleship, which is hideous, as you might imagine. So we'll see. Pretty soon I'll be doing a session on gaming with glass, and I'll be doing this. But not yet. We're waiting. There is another game, actually, a Google game, that only a small amount of users are playing right now.
There's several sort of scavenger hunt type games as well. So, one of the expectations is that since it has location built in, obviously time built in, and then the connectivity built in, that it will make a really great scavenger hunt type tool as well. So a lot of brands are coming out with that. The one other piece of technology that we were talking about earlier that I thought was really interesting is that there was a lot of publicity just before launch to us explorers about that wink application. That sort of with the wink of an eye, you would be able to take a picture or capture a video. And then there was sort of this letdown when they came out, and people got them on and said, where's this wink app that I heard so much about? And the interesting thing about that is that one of the little known pieces of technology inside is an infrared sensor, which is right here, and it's paired with the microphone. And that's what allowed Google Glass in early stages to, yeah, you can see it there.
That little black line over in the corner.
In the early stages, allowed it to basically track your facial gestures and eyes, including a wink. People found that really creepy, and there was a privacy concern around sort of looking at your retina. So for this phase of Google Glass, Google has disabled it and has not made that available to developers through the API. So just sort of a fun thing to keep your eye on in the future, no pun intended.
So those of you joining us tonight at town, out in the corner, if I'm winking at you, it doesn't mean what you think it does. I'm not taking pictures. And of course, glass comes in a variety of colors. It comes in charcoal, i.e. black, team green for orange. This is slate for gray, white, what do they call it, white cotton. And
I don't
then
know, something.
blue is sky, which I think only people at Google wear the blue one.
So you're showing the glass, and I'm under the impression that does it require an Android device or an iPhone to work with it? How does that work? Because I'm not sure exactly how. Is it a standalone device?
So I'm a little glass handicap because I'm an iPhone guy. So the additional cost to these of purchasing the Android device wasn't in my budget. Ben was lucky enough that he got an Android, so he gets full functionality. So I actually have limited functionality on this glass, but it's
Which is what? What's the difference?
so I can look at I can see the time, I can take photos, I can take videos, I can post them, I can check the weather, I can check the dew level, the humidity level.
That's because you're connected to an iPhone, which is connected to the internet?
Correct. So I'm connected via Bluetooth to my phone, which is connected right now via Wi-Fi here, or just through the regular digital network or 4G. And
then-
what Ben has through Android is an app called the My Glass app, which we're told they will come out with an iOS version of when they're put out for consumers. But right now, it's only for Android. So Ben can talk a bit about what the My Glass app allows.
Yeah, so the My Glass app, as Michael mentioned, is currently only available for Android, which creates a big pain for me because I'm walking around double-fisted. But the My Glass app allows a number of features that, as Michael said, aren't available for those who only have an iPhone. So that includes turn-by-turn directions, which to me, honestly, has, wearing the glass around, been one of the more evolutionary things about getting places. So, we're lucky enough that it has a compass inside, so it knows exactly which direction you're headed, and then it can literally give you up in the screen turn by turn. So while you're driving, while you're walking, and then just recently Google released in the last set of updates transit directions, so you can actually do it on the T or on buses as well. So for me, the application there has been really powerful if you're walking around in a new city as a tourist, or if you are driving somewhere you've never been before. It is sort of an evolutionary way to get turn-by-turn directions instead of constantly being focused down on your smart device for them. One of the other things that for me has been sort of the star feature for the device is Google Hangouts, which obviously is rather bandwidth consumptive because it is sort of just like on an iPhone FaceTime over a 3G or 4G network. But the possibilities there are really amazing too. So for those of you who have done a traditional Google Hangout, you know that it's several people, all who usually have a laptop facing them and you're looking at each other's faces. But when you do a Google Glass Hangout, what you're seeing is whatever the person's looking at. So again, if I'm traveling and in a really beautiful historic church that I want to show a friend, I can very quickly do a Google Glass Hangout with them. Talking in terms of right now, what is possible with these from a business or brand standpoint too, you can give behind-the-scenes tours with videos like those. For real estate agents, especially with international clientele, you can imagine how powerful glass is to have on and do a showing in real time, having the person talking in your ear, which by the way is not a speaker or even an earbud. The sound device on this is a bone transmission vibrator. So literally there's a piece of plastic that rests against the bone in my ear and then vibrates that so I can hear other people. So the possibilities in doing things like that are pretty amazing. And those are all live right now through the MyGlass app. The one other thing that, at least for me, is helpful because I do a lot of work educating people about Google Glass and sort of what the capabilities are, is that it does have a screencast capability where, a lot of times it's hard because people are looking at me and I'm, of course, seeing a different world up here. You can cast exactly what you're seeing in Google Glass on your smart device. So it's sort of like a screen share with the people around you. So those are some of the fun Android features.
Who's seen the official? Who has not seen the official Google Glass video? A few people interested in seeing it. Okay. Okay. So this is a screen capture from it, and then it'll show you some of the features, what they look like, and then we'll show you some screenshots as well.
Okay, Glass, record a video.
This is it. We're on in 2 minutes.
Okay, Glass, hang out with the Flying Club.
Google photos of tiger heads. You ready? You ready?
Right there. Okay, Glass, take a picture. Okay, Glass, record a video.
After this bridge, first exit.
Cool. Very delicious and hot. Arrow.
Google jellyfish.
It's beautiful.
Makes me tear up every time I see it. Okay, so that's Google's official video, and then run through a couple of features we already discussed. You get a sense of what it looks like. This is temperature. So this is what you really see. You get a little screen just up in the corner, the right-hand corner of your eye. And yes, they're going to come out with a left-hand version and a version that works with prescription glasses. And the time, the scores. Oh, Ben, why don't you talk about the baseball scores? You read a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so there are a number of, this section of the presentation is really about what is available right now. And then we'll talk about sort of what's coming next. But right now what Google has done is by request, developers can get access to the API of Google Glass. So already a number of different brands, organizations, and just hackers have already started developing appware for Glass. Historically, they've been very hard to find for those of us who are explorers. You sort of have to happen upon them and then download them, and it's a sort of laborious process to get them on your Glass. But just this month, Google announced that they're coming out with an app store similar to the Google Play Store and the iOS Store, which will obviously make them much easier to find. And it will also make them safer because they're going to institute a review process much like they have for the App Store or the Google Play Store. So anyway, one of the apps that's out is baseball scores, and all of the functionality is pretty darn simple because all you have is a little screen in the upper right-hand corner. So through voice, you can search for specific sports scores right now. And I think we have a few more examples of early appware that has been released. So this one is a gardening app. They have them for gardening, which you're seeing right now, and it's a simple use of a voice question. How do you plant flowers? And you get step-by-step instructions.
This is part of what Ben talked about with turn-by-turn directions. It also, of course, will check traffic, as good as Google Maps are at looking at traffic. This is really the turn-by-turn that Ben was talking about when you're a pedestrian. So it's a lot more immediate. You're not always looking down. You can actually look where you're going and see the view as well.
And if you're a tourist, you don't look like an idiot all the time, looking down at your smart device.
It helps you look
Instead,
confident.
you look fascinating and sexy with your Google Glass on.
And like any other smart device, you can Google all kinds of information. In this instance, somebody's looking at the stats for a bike they're thinking of purchasing. They're playing a song, which is something at this point I don't recommend doing on Google Glass. It does not sound great.
Really hurts that bone in your ear that's vibrating.
Yeah, it rattles your skull for sure.
Especially with Kesha.
Now, a lot of these that you're seeing were images that were taken before a new feature came out that allowed you to capture the user interface as well as the picture. So you're looking at these images, you're like, well, it's kind of dark, it's kind of blurry, it's a little fuzzy and it's dark. I took this 2 days ago, which looks dark on this screen, but if you see it on this screen, it looks fabulous. It's a nice, beautiful, high-resolution picture. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was getting towards dusk. I went out my porch and said, how do you carve a pumpkin? And immediately I got Martha Stewart's instructions how to carve a pumpkin, which, as we know, are the best instructions to follow.
Very seasonal, Michael.
Very seasonal. And this was last week. I was at South Station, and I just took a picture. So when you're using Glass, the different interactions you have with you, taking a video, Googling something, taking a photo, will pop up in the window, and you can see it. You can preview it right away.
When you go to take a picture, what actually do you do? Like you say out in public, you say take a picture. Like that could be awkward.
It is a lot awkward, and I've had some very heated online conversations with people concerned with privacy, especially men concerned that I would take pictures of them in the bathroom. I don't know why I would be taking pictures of men in the bathroom, but so this is the process, and you can imagine Steve is using the urinal next to me. Okay, Glass, take a picture. It's not secret. It does not make a good stealth media capturing device at all.
But you can start to imagine the concern if they enable the infrared sensor that allows you to wink and take a picture. And if you're a slick individual, there's an alternative way to take a photo, which is by pressing the button that Michael showed you earlier up here on top. And just as I'm talking and appear to just touch my pair of glasses, I took a picture of the entire audience. Got you.
Next.
So, a really interesting conversation we all think is what's on the brink of happening next. I think that for some Glass Explorers, this initial set of capabilities have been disappointing, and certainly for those of you who don't have a pair for yourself and you've just been given 15 minutes to try them on, it can be frustrating at first and take some time to get used to. So some quick thoughts on what's coming next. The consumer rollout will ultimately come at some point. Google has been very buttoned up about when they will actually be releasing these to anyone who wants them. I think one of their initial goals via rumor was to get it out by holiday season this year, but just because of all of the feedback they've gotten from explorers like us, it does sound like they're going to delay a little bit further. Michael, I know you had your own point of view on it.
Yeah, I'm hearing beginning of next year. I'm hearing end of next year, probably before college. That's kind of been Google's thing. Apple always waits till after everybody's bought the last stuff to come out with the new stuff, so they can sell it twice to the same person. But I'm hearing September. And what have you heard for prices?
So, for the initial set, as Michael mentioned, to be an explorer, you actually did have to pay them, and it was $1,500. So
$1,699.12 with tax in New York.
So, it's a pretty expensive novelty. But, I think we definitely expect the price to drop down below $1,000 for the mainstream rollout. They've purchased companies that make different components of the glass to bring the price down. And Michael, you have a bold projection of?
$299.
So, you can really see it being adopted heavily by consumers at a price point like that. So how many people here market technology of any type, whether it's software as a service or actual hardware or things like that? And then how many people here are marketers overall? So most of us have probably been through some kind of a new product launch. And at least from a marketing standpoint, I found this very interesting as a product launch. Because when you think about the business challenge that Google had with this glassware, it was actually relatively interesting that they have an unknown device that's relatively revolutionary for the category. And especially from people who are tech enthusiasts and people who are excited about technology, they were going to face a lot of flack about releasing this product because, as we've already seen and heard and seen mocked in pop culture, it's not perfect. And it's certainly not the cultural norm to go around moving your head up like this over and over. There are lots of problems with it. So from a product launch perspective, I really admire the way they went about it, which was by basically recruiting a group of highly enthusiastic influencers who were going to be very critical about the technology. And right, I think we're all pretty critical about it and give them feedback. But instead of launching it and trying to sell it to us as a finished product, they launched it as a beta product and put us in a community together, which is a Glass Explorers community, where they're actually asking for our feedback. And they're essentially getting buy-in and creating a cultural norm before they try to launch it to the mainstream. So for anyone who's ever launched a product, especially a technology product, you know this scenario very well. So it's a really interesting case study in how to launch technology that's evolutionary or even revolutionary.
And actually, the rollout happened in a kind of very interesting way. So everybody knew they were getting glass that signed up to the I/O conference. Then all of us who submitted, what was it, in March? Was it If I Had Glass?
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
right. It
So
was late spring, early summer.
in March we all applied. About a month later, everybody was notified, and then we're all on Google Plus trying to figure out, kind of divine the pattern that they were handing them out, because random people would get it. It would say, oh, they're handing out all the ones to people whose last name begin with a T, or you've got to have a specific Twitter account to get them. Then somebody with 50 Twitter followers got it and blew it, and then people were progressively bitter as they didn't get them, and then they kind of disappeared as soon as they did because they were out using them. And then you start seeing pictures popping up all over the place. And then Google did something that's pretty interesting. So they've chosen a bunch of hypercritical, egotistical big mouths, us, to get them initially to give. Sorry about that. I was trying to be honest.
No, that was very honest.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
And then they let us use them for a while, let us critique them. They've gone through 3 software revisions, 10's the newest, and then they started sending out invitations to us. So somebody would post, and of course all of us Google Glass people were posting all the emails, every conversation we have, everything goes up on Google Plus probably. Then you get a couple people saying, oh, Google just sent me a survey and gave me 2 passes to nominate 2 people to share an invite with. So don't forget, Google's getting $1,500 every time somebody drops a dime on a pair of these. So, and then it changed a little bit, and I was given 3 invites. So now I had to find 3 people who had the money, whose spouses would let them spend it on something like this, and who had a good excuse for it, which is surprisingly few, even with all our marketing network connections. Who wants, in this economy, who wants to cough up that kind of money for a beta device? But so yeah, Google's done some very interesting things, and all the while they're making money. So their marketing worked. You know, they tweeted something, and then they got 8,000 If I Had Glass people, plus the 2,000 developers. And then if every one of the 8,000 people got 2 to 3, you've got another 16 to the 24,000 people getting Google Glass. So you've got almost 30,000 people just in this country using them, because they're not exported out of the country. People can take them, but you have to be a U.S. resident. And up until recently, you actually had to travel to a Google office to get them. You had to go to L.A., San Francisco, or New York. So $1,500, $199.12 tax, $178 round trip on the Acela, plus food and drinks and taxi for 30,000 people.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that the point is that the consumer rollout, I think we expect to continue on a similar path. They clearly have a systematic way of bringing influencers in, getting feedback on the device, and then they're going to make it better as they roll it out to more and more people. So in terms of what's next, I think we expect that, certainly. Do you want to talk a bit about brand opportunities, or Steve, did you have a question?
Well, so I had a question. You said you had, if I got one, I would have to go to New York. When it rolls out in wider across the country, let's say, how would they roll it out in Boston? How are they going to fit? If it takes an hour to fit, what's going to actually happen? Do you think?
Well, I have some guesses. Nobody knows till they actually do it. Google is definitely taking a page from the playbook of Apple, except they don't leave any Google Glass sitting around in a bar. Google, and I'm sure this will be brought up in questions, but Google's working with eyeglass manufacturers to make sure they can come out with a version that will either be built into more fashionable, for those of you who don't think this is not fashionable, glasses and prescription glasses. So you might need to go to an optometrist to get them, and they'll be able to fit them. Of course, they'll probably likely be trained. The stores that we went to in San Francisco, you got to go to Google headquarters. You got to go to the big spaceship. So in LA, it was a pop-up store, just some random store. They threw a bunch of desks and mirrors in and hired a bunch of people. That Ben just alerted me to that. I thought they were all Google employees, but they hired a bunch of people, trained them, and sold them. It's a very good chance that you could just see a Google pop-up store in the mall, and I think that's what will happen. You'll get a handful of people. It'll be the size of a Microsoft or an Apple store. It'll just be for glass, and probably a Pixel notebook or maybe some other devices, but it'll primarily be to disseminate these. And I think they'll probably push them out in small quantities. Again, I don't think they're going to suddenly launch 5 million of them.
Okay. Let's move on to brand opportunities, how brands might take advantage of Google Glass.
So we've already talked a little bit about some of the glassware that's been released in these early stages, but obviously for brands, there's a community of 10,000 to 30,000 people, all of whom are only experimenting with it. So, right now there's a great amount of PR to get from releasing a glass app, but certainly as consumer rollout continues, more people will start using these on an ongoing basis. So some of the launch partners with Google Glass were publications like CNN, Elle, and then the social networks, so Facebook, Twitter, Path, which we've already talked about. Newer and more robust apps that have just been popping up recently include several. There's a Sherwin-Williams app right now for paint. And basically you can capture with glass an actual scene, and then it sort of gives you a color palette or a paint palette based on that. Fidelity, I know we have a slide on that, has done some work around what that could look like. They have sort of a future-facing video that looks at what it might be, and then they have a current app right now that just does stock prices. We have until 11:45.
I was born on a Tuesday in Detroit. News.
It's all about the lesson for today. Let's kick off the
Quotes. A logo. Markets.
And here's a look at the Sherwin-Williams.
Welcome the newest member of the Color Snap family, Sherwin-Williams Color Snap Glass. Color Snap Glass makes it even easier to capture color from the world around you and bring it to life with confidence through inspiring paint color palettes from Sherwin-Williams. Let's see how it all works.
Okay, Glass, take a picture. All right, I'll see what else I can find. Okay, Glass, get directions to Sherwin-Williams. As long as they throw a baby in, it sells. The fidelity of that will better, much more safe.
So while we get the technology back on track, these are some of the brand things that have already rolled out. But from a brand perspective, there are also, I think other current opportunities that exist simply with the technology, even in a limited rollout basis. So, a lot of these apps assume that everyone has Google Glass, which obviously won't be a reality for quite a while. But from a brand perspective, think about other opportunities where you utilize just a few pairs of glass to reach a lot of people. For instance, if you're in a fashion industry, what happens if you arm your store managers with Google Glass and allow them to instantly capture people's fashions and share them with their friends really quickly? If you're in some kind of large industry where people don't have access very often to a behind-the-scenes look, what about hosting a Google Hangout where someone within your company has Google Glass on and gives people a behind-the-scenes sneak peek or interviews a couple of people within your company? And then finally, in sort of a limited trade show style environment, what about arming ambassadors with glass that they train people how to use and give them sort of a really premium brand experience using something on glass? All of those things are possibilities.
Great work. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for sharing.